In der Arbeitskonfektion liegt die Zukunft.
Wenn man nicht dauernd wohl nachschaufelt, dann bleibt er noch auf der Strecke stehen. Was macht unsere Fabrik?
Franzi?
Hallo.
Beno ba, eskerrik asko, prentsaurreko honetara etortzeagatik.
Thank you very much for coming to the press conference. Today we have the press conference of the film in the official section.
Thank you very much for
A film by Agnieszka, Holland, called Franz.
We are introducing a film which makes part of our selection, official selection, Agnieszka, Holland's Franz. And we have part of the team here with us. Thank you very much for being with us. And decía que tenemos la suerte de tener una buena parte.
We have the fortune of having the film Franz, which competes, he's just repeating what he said, in the official section, directed by Agnieszka Holland, and we have most of the cast and team. And just a small gesture, but it's quite curious, but full of feeling. Agnieszka Holland presents a film in the official section, and her daughter is the director of the closing film of our audition. This doesn't usually happen. This is something new. So, we have with us Emma Smetana, Katharina Stark, Peter Kurth, Idan Weiss, Agnieszka Holland, the director, screenplay writer and director of the film, Tomasz DOP, Kafka Cimbalova, producer, Marcin Wierzchoslawski, the producer, and Michael Downey, executive producer. I hope I got those names right. Okay, I'm going to give you the floor as soon as someone has a question. There's a question in the front row.
Hola.
Hi.
Buenos días.
Good morning. I'd like to ask about the editing of the film, which drew my attention because it was probably quite laborious, quite difficult to do. How was the work in the editing room? And I would like to ask you about the current, those parts of the tourist guides or the tourist guide in the film. What meaning do you want to give with those specific parts you show with the tourist guides? Thank you very much.
Sure I understood.
Well, first of all, the question was, better if he repeats the question. I don't want to invent anything now. Repita la pregunta. Please ask him to repeat the question. Un momento. What? See? No, wait.
I understood well.
Yes.
You
okay.
asked that it was difficult to make that
the
film.
editing. Yeah.
And the
editing. Yes, the editing was difficult. Yes.
Well, we don't have the editor with us, which is a mistake. He didn't want to come. When we decided with the screenwriter to take that kind of the concept, to make the non-linear and non-conventional biopic structure and storytelling, we knew that we are going on very shaky ground, and that till very end we'll be not sure if that puzzles and fragments and elements are coming together. We decided with Sarka to greenlight the film when we thought that the script came together actually, but knowing that all will happen after. During the shooting, we gave to us, with Tomek and other crew, a lot of freedom. So we've been following script, but in the same time, we've been inventing the new things all over the way. And the crew had impression that they are making different film every day, which was risky, but quite exciting. And then editor came, and the editor, I worked with him on 5 movies, I think, or even more maybe, and I love the guy. And he's very adventurous and very quiet and very funny, actually, strange character. And and with him we made the final script somehow. The movie came together in the editing room with some changes regarding the script and with some new ideas coming from exactly him and with some musical ideas coming from the composers. And what you see now, it is the work of the team, but the team was led by myself, sure. But they've been all extremely creative, I have to say. Mostly they are. I wanted also to say that 2 other people from our movie are here. It's Alicja Jagodzińska, who is another Polish co-producer, and Sandra Korzeniak, who is Polish actress who plays mother. So I'm not sure if I answer your question because I have some difficulty with hearing the translation, but...
There was a second part, Agnieszka, which was about the tour guide and what role did the tour guide play in the conception of the film?
Well, I'm not sure if I can explain you everything because after you will know too much. You will know more than I do. The tour guide, it was 2 tour guides. One guy, American guy.
Exactly.
And it was museum
and so,
guide.
yes, my character was named Lady Guide to make a difference between the tour guide and the lady guide. And without revealing too much, I would say Agnieszka and Marek Epstein, who's the author of the script, I think, in my opinion, wrote these 2 characters in order to have somebody or something that has got a purely, I would say, reasonably intellectual, positive relationship towards Kafka, even from a different time perspective, because as all of you know, Franz is a strong brand that can be used in several ways. And so this character of mine may direct towards directions Franz would probably like.
Yeah, and your character is more intellectual, and American character, strange. It's more commercial. So we've been like trying to put the different approaches and different point of views, and be also slightly satirical about it, but be also a bit absurd about it. But in the economy of the storytelling, the characters like that, and the characters and the fact that the main characters have been breaking the fourth wall and turning to the audience and commenting Franz, help us to have exactly, to avoid the mise en scène of the informations. What I really don't like in the biopics, that most of the energy, storytelling energy, is going to the staging and dramatizing the informations. And we wanted to be more expeditive about the necessary informations, or even more than necessary informations, and try to find the substance, which, you know, it's up to you to judge.
Hi, here's Irene of Cinema Gavia. So first of all, congratulations to all of you for this beautiful, beautiful movie. I love Kafka, really. Mm-hmm. And I have 2 questions. First to Agnieszka, how did you get to showing Kafka through the experiences of these people who know him? And also to Idan, how did you prepare this character? It was difficult? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, we knew that we cannot make the arbitrary Kafka, that we have to look for him. And for me, that film, it was looking for Franz through the piles of different things, objects, books, adaptations, and interpretations, and so on. But what was the most important, what is the soul of that film, is him, of course.
And to answer your question, so I had like a half a year to prepare, and I did many different stuff. For example, I was going back to my past life where I had depressions and try to roll it up and to go again into the dark times. And also I locked myself in my flat in Hamburg like for over 2 months, and I try not to just to go out when the daylight is gone, to get that kind of feeling of darkness or darker energy. And of course I read everything from him, and also a few weeks before shooting I read the diaries. Period.
Yeah, and after I brought him up and say, now look at the sun, okay?
Exactly.
There was someone there. Oh, I think that, or maybe here.
Hello, Katharina in a Romanian magazine, Conștiința. Congratulations on the film. Mrs. Holland, as you said, the storytelling is very complex and very dynamic. We have different perspectives from the past, from the present, from the future. Different characters tell the story of Franz. And what caught my attention is that almost every time when we have a change of scenery or a change of emotion in the life of Franz Kafka, there's the music that marks that thing, that special moment as an event. So I wanted to ask you, how did you decide on the the scores, or how did you choose the music, the music for the movie? And also for the DOP, we have some very poetic takes there. The camera is very close or very far away, there's a static, and there's movement, there's dynamic. How was the collaboration with Mrs. Holland, and who decided the last perspective of the take? Thank you.
So Tomek will answer first, because first was the image, after came the music.
Yeah, so first of all, image goes from the Kafka works, all what we try to put on the screen was, of course, very connected with everything what Franz Kafka wrote. But for me, personally, Franz Kafka was Idan. So he told us story how he prepared, but I met him when he was already kind of made. So I didn't know about this preparation, what he said. So whatever he brings to the set, we try to catch. And I think, as Agnieszka mentioned before, finally decide the editor which shoot will be used later on. But all the time we try to catch the essence of the essential piece of the scene. And it's very different, and this difference was our key for a storytelling of this movie. Because we always want to try do every scene like with turning the table. So it was like Agnieszka said about the freedom, but that freedom was very big pain, because we couldn't like set up one kind of storytelling. We all the time try to change it, and this change was our main rule.
Yes, most of the films I'm doing, I'm looking for the style of the film, and most of that style is quite consistent. And that time we know that the style of the film will be not being consistent. But in the same time, find the consistency in the non-consistency. So it was a lot of paradoxes we've been dealing with. And in the same time, you ask about the music. Our editor, Paweł Herdliczka, he is a musician as well. His instrument is a trumpet. But he is extremely sensitive to music. So always when I'm working with him, I give him some first pass when he tries to figure out what kind of the music helps him to find the rhythm of the storytelling. And this time I know and admire one Polish alternative rock group, which is not very well known in Poland, but is very well known on the alternative scene in the UK and the US. They are called Trupa Trupa, which means the group of dead bodies, I was told. Corpse, group of corpse. And the leader of that group, I know for quite a long time, he's a fantastic poet. Now he is published in many countries, and his poems are very economical and very, very cruel somehow. It's somehow connected to the experience of Second World War, and he's also the admirer and expert of Kafka. And now he had the conferences in Princeton about exactly, that. So he is like the big head. In the same time, he's absolutely crazy. So I thought his music, in some strange way, even if it's not classical instrumentation and it is, practically some kind of the rock, dark rock, he can help us to find exactly the mood. So it was the first music we put on the film. It was their music. They sent us the pieces, different proposals without vocal. And we've been playing with that. It helped us a lot, actually. And so it helped us so much that we decided to keep it, even if it was considered on the beginning as a kind of thumb music. And after the regular composers I'm working with came, and they have to deal with that, adding some other layers, and sometimes fighting with what we had, and sometimes like adding something, and it made, it made the final music, which I think is not overwhelming, but in the same time gives the new layer exactly.
Hi, from Brazil, Rodrigo Fonseca, Correio da Manhã. I think it's more than a movie. It's an erupting volcano because it has such a power. I have two questions to Ida. Your physicality is amazing. Your physical work is impressive. But how to find the right tone of silence to represent a man who was like a living industry producing words all the time? How to discover Kafka's silence? And Agnieszka, congratulations for the film. The question is, when and what was the first impact of Kafka's work on the development of your literary repertoire, and how did rediscovering his literature now through the medium of cinema allow you to interpret his seminal books in new ways?
Go.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it was quite a challenge to create that inner silence, and because I'm more extrovert and he's more introvert, so it crashed together somehow in a way.
It's not true. He's totally introvert.
But I think when I read the book, books, it was for me very important to, or I think it was I very quick understood which language he speaks, and what was the question again?
The silence.
Yeah.
Dealing with
Silence.
Silence. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know what to answer. But I think, when I get more into the dark place at my hometown, it was after I read the first book and then the next book. It was I created somehow my inner silence, and I remember when we shoot, I spoke a lot with everyone on the set. With everyone, I spoke the whole time, and then when we shoot, actually, I didn't have much to say. Just the lines came out somehow in a way.
When I met him first time, when I've seen him first time, because the link with some first tries have been sent to me by a German casting director, and Idan was on that first tape, on that first link, and I was. My biggest worry, our biggest worry, was if we will find Franz. With Kafka, it's a bit different than with other famous writers, because imaginary about him is so strong, you know, especially in Prague, but not only, you know, his face is on everything, so everybody knows how he looked like. It will be difficult to cast somebody who looks completely different. But Idan actually looked exactly. So I was afraid, okay, that guy looks exactly like Franz did, but if he has his soul. And then we met, and I had the impression that he has exactly his soul. So maybe he didn't need to work so much. Maybe he just worked because we gave him a lot of time before the shooting started. But I think that he just has it. Of course, he's a gifted actor, and he's a hard-working actor, and he's a very responsible man. So he did all necessary homework. But I think even without that, he will be there. And about myself, the question to me was about...
The discovery of Kafka and now the discovery of his books.
Yeah, my journey with Franz Kafka is very long, because I read first time his books when I was 14. It means I started to read him since my teenage. And it was the trial first, and after the metamorphosis, and after I read actually in Polish. I lived in communist Poland. But it was translated and edited in that time. It wasn't in Czechoslovakia, who was much more Stalinian. And in Czechoslovakia, actually, Kafka was not present for decennies. After the Second World War, he was considered by the official propaganda some kind of the degenerated bourgeois writer. But in Poland, he became much more popular. So I read him, and it was like incredible discovery to first to read his books and to like enter his world. And I have to tell that when I was in my teenage, I was much more sensitive and intellectually developed person that I am now. So it was a huge discovery. And after when I read his letters, especially letters to Milena, he became very close to me. I had the impression that I understand him, that I'm some kind of his sister or something. When we've been directing it, I was talking to Katharina that somehow she is my point of view in that story, at least from my youth. And after, in 1980, I adapted together with my ex-husband the trial to the Polish television, and it was one of the most exciting intellectual adventure I had to deconstruct that novel, which I still consider one of the greatest in the world literature ever, and then to find the key to reconstruct it. And I had the impression that I did find the key. I was so proud of myself, you know. And after, with the time, I understood that it's only key for that very moment, but it doesn't work forever. And next time when I will try to open with that key, it's not working. So why that metaphor of the key, you know, many times in the film. But that it makes Kafka so exciting, that his actualization of, you know, what he was as a human being and what he passed as an artist is changing with the time. It's shining, it's different. It's going to the shadow, and after it's coming back, it goes through different stereotypes. It goes through reduction to some kind of the prophet of the Holocaust. It goes to the reduction as a, you know, the most alienated, you know, writer of the time. It actualizes again in our times, unfortunately, on that level, because we are entering very dark period again. But in the same time, he's very much what I discovered over the years, that he doesn't have then one color, then one, you know, dark color, that he has a lot of humor, that he has a lot of liveliness, that he's very sensual somehow, that the paradox between him being shy and conformist somehow person, who is not the rebel, he doesn't want to fight, he's not a survivor, But in the same time, he was totally revolutionary in the way he was writing and what he was writing. So, you know, I think that, and then we came to the moment when we wanted, again with Sarka, to make the film together, and we've been talking that maybe we'll try Franz Kafka. And I felt that it's the best moment for myself, that I don't need to be afraid of anything. I have to just jump on that. And after, I think I pass the same kind of the playful courage to the writer and to all the crew. Anyway, you know, I'm really grateful that you are apparently those who've been talking like our work. But anyway, you know, it was a fantastic adventure for all of us. So.
And you should know that the film will screen at the Festival de Rio in October.
Hi, good morning. Alessandro Bizzotto from Players Magazine, Italy. My question for Idan Weiss. Many people today, mostly young people, but not just young people, see Kafka as almost a kind of meme, cultural icon. The movie shows it as well, with the burgers and so on. So I'd like to know how you relate to this image of this world-famous author, and if you think the movie helps bringing out a less stereotypical image of him, and how did you try, besides reading, besides doing research, how did you bring out something authentic of such an icon in a way? And congratulations on an award-worthy performance.
Thank you so much. Well, I think it's quite interesting when people are dying, then many, many years someone came up with them and the person getting a brand, you know, it's a bit like maybe Joy Division or Kurt Cobain. And it's interesting that young people, maybe mostly young people, relating to it quite a lot. And I think actually there are many sentences from Kafka where people can connect, maybe in a weird way, but they can connect to them. And I think it's because we are all sensitive human beings, and Kafka remembering us a bit that we are all sensitive. And I think the world we are live now, right, it's very fast, very quick, and maybe, I don't know, apps like TikTok or Instagram, all the stuff, maybe people can relate to that in a weird way. I don't know how to describe it, but it's quite interesting actually to think about it, why young people relate to it so much. Did I answer your question a bit? Okay, great.
Well, probably not so many young people are reading Kafka right now, but are embracing his image, his brand, exactly. And I think that his sensibility, his persona, his character, his way of being different, his way of being uncertain and full of doubts, and in the same time following some path, that it's quite attractive to the youngest generation. We screened the film to some little groups of quite young people, or very young people, who didn't have the deeper knowledge of his literature, and the connection was immediate. So we thought, you know, it's something metaphysical here, that he can be perceived not only in that natural way by the readers, but also by the people who can connect to his situation. And about that satirical part of the film, when I didn't want us to be critical about, you know, the consumption, and, you know, that turning Kafka to the kitsch, which is happening actually in Prague very much. But in the same time, we've been like talking about if Franz wakes up and he comes here and he sees all of that, all those gadgets and all those monuments and the museum and tours with the, you know, flag with little picture of him on the top, what will be his reaction? And I don't know, maybe he will be amused, amazed, maybe he will be scared, maybe he will be telling, I was right, you, Max, had to burn my work, you know, and let them to forget me forever. Or maybe he will be playing with that, so we don't know. And we wanted to have that feeling, you know, of the playfulness there. That I don't want to make Franz, Kafka, the judge of our contemporary life.
Hi, good afternoon, Mario from Mundo Cine. First of all, congratulations for the movie and for their performance. Obviously, in this film, the main character is Franz Kafka, but historically speaking, you just mentioned him. Max Brod is key for us to have all the legacy that Kafka left us, and his presence looms large in the narrative as well in this movie. So my question is, how did you decide which aspect of their friendship to highlight and which to leave ambiguous to us? Thank you.
What elements of his friendship with Max Brod did you keep in, and which did you choose not to do?
I didn't get it.
Sorry.
Well, Max Brod, story of Max and story of Max and Kafka could be the separate movie, something a bit like Mozart and Salieri or something like that. Somebody probably even had that idea, but I didn't want it. I wanted absolutely to have Max Brod and show how his friendship helped Franz to even start and to have the courage, to go forward. And in the same time, like that mix of little jealousy and pretentious feeling that I know better how to deal with that, coming from Max, how it colored the relationship. And what is paradoxal is that, it will be not Kafka if Max followed his wishes. So he betrayed his friend's wishes, and in the same time he saved him for the future. And when they've been alive, Max was much more popular writer than Franz was. So somehow Franz Kafka stole from Max his very existence. He became somehow the shadow of Kafka, or owner of Kafka, something like the widow after Kafka. So he used that to build up Kafka's legacy, but also his own importance. In some point, he started to censor him. For example, only recently, the diaries of Kafka have been published in an entire way. Before it was censored by Max Brod. So it is very, very funny relationship, but at the same time, I have such a deep sympathy for Max and his, and his instinct that he discovered the value which was so hidden for the most of the contemporaries, and he brought that light till the future.
Hi, I would like to ask you, at a production level, how the locations and the objects, how did you do all that? And whether the locations out in the streets and some of the cars that you used, whether that was very complicated to do.
Locations and the production design, we've been collaborating. We had to create a bit different team that we had on previous movies we did with Tomek. So it was some new people coming, and the crucial was Henry Borarosz, who is the production designer. And we went together with Tomek and him to my house in France, in Brittany. And we've been spending like 1 week probably, very intense.
3 weeks.
2 weeks?
3 altogether. With Henry, we spent 3 weeks together, and 1 week with Henry.
So we've spent 3 weeks altogether. and very intense time, peripatetic also, because we've been also walking on the beaches and talking, and trying to, imagine the style and being inspired by different movies and different, and different images, and reading the script through several times. And after, I think everybody knew less or more the direction we are heading to. And I knew that I wanted the people who are courageous, fresh, and creative, and who are not afraid to go, out of the box. And Prague is a great location, and we had.
This is all start from the one walk when Agnieszka and Sarka took me for the walk of Prague, because they know Prague very well, because Agnieszka is second home for her, and Sarka lived there. I was not so familiar with Prague that day, so they took me to the walk, and we kind of realized that we stepping the same steps on the same streets where Franz was stepping. So starting from this walk, we just follow the way of Franz.
And Prague was very welcoming, which is not always for the filmmakers, that it was a great also power of persuasion from Sarka. We had the access to the locations when normally they don't accept the future cinema. So we've been able to, to as much as possible today to show Prague as it was. But also we wanted to open up, not to stay in the Franz Kafka world, to go to break a bit like the realism of some locations. For example, the place when he's working looked completely different, looked much more traditional and and dusty, and we wanted to find also something which some kind of the brutalism which and the symmetry which takes him to the future. So. It was great team collaboration of the production design, costume design, and makeup. Yeah. So I had great team and great actors, by the way.
Maybe we can talk a bit about the family, the relationships for the father and the sister. It appears that Franz had a very big fan in his sister and almost like an enemy in his father. And maybe a hypothetical question, would the writings of Franz Kafka have been different if his family was different?
Probably so.
For sure.
Who has to answer?
Father. Of course.
My English is so lousy.
Herman, Kafka came from a very poor family, a Jewish Orthodox family from a small place. And he didn't speak very well German, actually. He didn't speak very well Czech, and he didn't speak English at all. So why Peter doesn't want to answer your question. But of course, we've been analyzing it and talking about it. And when I've seen Peter in some German movies and on television, I immediately, you've been the first person, actually, I wanted to have in the film. Because I didn't know Idan yet, and I didn't know Katharina. It came through the casting. And after I was thinking that Sandra will be great wife for him because they are so different. And the dynamic of the family, it was that mother could understand Franz, but she didn't have time for him because she had to take care of her husband. Because her husband was big and noisy, but in the same time he was fragile and afraid. And she knew it, and she knew that she has to give her all the attention. And sisters have been strong and independent, but Franz probably needed that attention. And the noise father made crushed him somehow. So when you read the letter to the father, what strikes us, how long it is, how deeply he analyzes every single wound which was made by father's behavior. But in the same time, when you see what father did to him, it wasn't so terrible, you know. Most of fathers are doing it. The father had some expectations, and he was unable to fulfill those expectations. So he wasn't totally accepted. He was loved by not accepted, and he was loved for something he was not. So, you know, it's a very modern situation, actually. I think it is a dynamic you find in most of the families. The expectations of fathers, the expectations of the parents, the fear of the parents that they will not succeed and they want the children to be more successful. All that is crushing children till today.
Good afternoon, Julián Tesoro from Argentina. Congratulations for the film and for the performances of the actors. I would like to ask Agnieszka, the director, the film introduces many elements that connected with the present day, starting with the form of communication, establishing ironic looks upon the way we communicate nowadays through the social media or on our own, thinking that we're connected. And that is related to the attitude of Kafka, of very few words, but a lot of writing and a lot of letters, which would be the emails we have nowadays. But also, what I seem to see in the film was a look towards what happens nowadays, what we're living through as regard feminism and the position of women. Because women in the film are shown I'm not too sure whether, excuse me if I'm wrong, if I'm making a mistake, sorry, but women are portrayed, whether the real story was like that, but women are shown as if they introduce solution. They are the ones who establish the bridges. They understand the nature of this man or the men that surround them. I would like to know whether that was deliberate, that you did that in the film to connect it more with what's contemporary nowadays or not. I hope you got all of that question. That was a trifle long.
What you've been talking about, the way Franz communicated, which is very much the way the modern youth is communicating, or not only youth, that we are more and more communicating through the indirect way and through the different medias and different means, more than directly. And the direct conversation is something which makes many people actually, especially the younger people who didn't have experience of the analog world, afraid. So it is some similarities as Franz felt, and I realized when I was rereading all the possible biographies and recollections about Franz, and rereading some of his letters and diaries, that somehow and I didn't want to make the medical diagnosis of Franz Kafka, but certainly many things which you can see from that falls to something which we can call today neuroatypical. That he was in some kind of the spectrum, and some of his reactions or some of his behavior, and especially his sensibility and also his sensoric sensibility, have been very much like people who are called today neuroatypical, and it's so common among the younger generation. Most of children of my friends are actually neuroatypical. They have some kind of ADHD or Asperger or some spectrum of autism or something different, but they have some kind of the sensibility which makes their skin very thin, which makes them susceptible and open to some kind of the violent touch, and they are afraid of the touch. First thing I asked actually Idan to watch, it was to watch Nadal when he is playing tennis.
Yeah.
Because I love Nadal. It means as a tennis player, and also I like watching him. And I think that he has such a goodness in him, and in the same time, all those tics and all that makes him very, very special. And I'm not speaking about tennis talent, because that is obvious plenty of very talented tennis players. But I thought it may be inspiration for Idan. No, it was?
It was quite an inspiration, yeah, to get that kind of tics and the neurotic feeling also.
And also is how you can love differences. How can you love somebody whose behavior is different than others, who doesn't fit into the, some kind of the mediocrity. So it was one thing, if you think that I answer your question on that matter. And other thing is women. Women in those stories feels more about Franz, and every of them, even Felice, who is the most conventional bourgeois person, but in the same time she is sensitive and smart enough to want to go on the way with that man, not only because she's desperate that she cannot find other men. Actually, after she broke with Franz, or Franz broke with her rather, she found the man, and she had very, happy matrimonial life, and had 2 children, I think. And after emigrated to America, she survived, actually. Felice survived. And Greta didn't, and Milena, who was not Jewish, but she died in the concentration camp of Ravensbrück because she was in the underground, in Czech underground. And all of those women had very strong personalities, and they've been independent women somehow, and they've been attracted to that fragile and in the same time revolutionary, strange human being. So good for them. And Otla, the sister, as I said before, it was probably the one who totally accepted him from all the sides, but she was not able to help him neither. No one was actually able to help him. That is, so tragic about destiny of Franz. On the other hand, he was lucky enough to die when the time had been quiet.
Okay, so I think that we will have to give an end to this press conference, but before, maybe somebody wants to say a last word, producers, actresses, actors.
If you don't mind, as you can see, I've been jumping on the microphone. It's because my name's Mike. But there is a fascinating, interesting and unique and unknown connection of Franz to San Sebastian.
Oh,
clearly in his diaries, he unequivocally says that he poses for nude for a painter. And he posed nude for a painter called Ernst Ascher. And Ernst Ascher painted him naked as San Sebastian. So there is a complete, direct and opposite connection between Franz Kafka and San Sebastian. I leave you with that thought.
And I wanted again, you ties the film of my daughter, Winter of the Crow, which will be the closing ceremony film, which I advise you to watch. And Tomek Naumiuk also have been the cinematographer for that one. So he's a representative of other film as well.
Yeah, funny story is that people find a lot of Kafka style inside of this movie, and this is a movie which I shot before Franz, so...
Well, that film is more Kafkian than our film, actually.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so thank you all. Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, Franz. Gracias.